We are live.
And we are live. Good morning and afternoon to everybody around the world. We are on live. It's 5 a.m. in Texas, where we're having a large distribution, our first show of Impact Live here, as well as we're going to be replayed, I think, at 6 a.m. here on the East Coast of Washington, D.C. I think we'll be replayed in Florida as well. And of course, our normal audience, our wonderful audience that we have on our normal channels, Twitter, and as well, Crypto Cake, and a shout out to everybody. So we're going to be doing this show every morning at this time. We broadcast simultaneously across all our channels and into a lot of your TV stations there in Texas and Louisiana and I guess Florida, and we're going to keep growing. So really the focus of this show is to bring everybody together and focus on what's going on with our money, and to provide tips and best practices and everything. And I just got a message from our guy Fly Mackey. Thank you, Fly. Fly is the man who has put this all together, and but it's really for you guys, and it's for everybody. And, as what we have going on right now with our money is very, it's crazy. It's something that hasn't happened in the history of our money before. Maybe it's happened in the history of the world. I'm not sure, but it's hard to know what to believe, what to think, and what to do. And so that's what we're here for. So my name is Bruce Porter Jr. We have a couple of different companies. Of course, I'm with Global Boost Media. Our show here is Impact Money. I have my good brother, David Porter, who is, we've been around the world doing different things. We're going to bring on a couple of guests today. David is joining actually from Portugal. How's it out there, David?
Yes, Blockchain House, Portugal.
You are on mute.
Can you hear me now?
We don't have audio.
Oh,
you might have to drop out and come back in. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna go on. We'll let David figure that out as we go. We have a couple of special guests for you, as well. We have my friend Matthew Dixon. Matthew is one of the best traders that I have ever met, and he's a really good guy. We've done some business together as well, and we're going to talk about his company and what they're doing. They have an AI platform that is predicting market trends, and then as well just talk about in general. He has a lot of experience and everything, so I'm really looking forward to that. Our format that we'll do every morning, and as we all get to know each other, we'll take calls and this and that and the other. But for right now, we'll plan on an interview or two for in the hour. We have another one of my friends, Joshua Howley, and he is now started his own investment bank. We work together at an investment bank, and he's going to come on and talk to us as well. Joshua is an American, and Matthew Dixon is a Brit, and I think he's joining us from London as well. So we are looking good on all the stations right now. So that is great news, and super excited about it. So before I get into to Matthew here, and as David is fixing his stuff, one of the things that brought me into this financial markets years ago was the inflation rate. And if you look at the inflation rate, which is absolutely unbelievable, since 1930, it's just really the buying power of your dollar has just crashed so much. And then when you see things like this defense bill that they just funded here in Washington, it's $800 and something billion. And guys, I don't know, people don't know, but that's about the exact amount of money that they took in federal income taxes last year. Now this year they're supposed to take in more. I guess that means they're taxing us more. But where is that money coming from? And the thing that a lot of people don't understand yet, but people are starting to get it because I've been telling everybody, is that the taxes, the federal taxes at this point are just the burn. Okay, that is the burn. And in crypto or in Bitcoin, we understand the burn because we'll have people they'll do a bunch of coins and then they'll have a coin burn, and that's basically what the taxes is now. So we have a system, and the way it works is they print the money that they want here in Washington, or New York. I guess they print it as well, and that's where they digitize it, and then the only reason really they take the taxes is to take the money from you because they really don't need it. And so, but that causes inflation. So we're doing 800 and something $billion for that's just the defense bill. So everything else that's being paid for is just coming, they're just taking it via inflation. So pretty interesting situation that we have going on. I am going to go ahead and I am going to bring in, well, hold on here. We have David signing on back on. David,
I'm back on.
yeah, I still can't hear you, man.
I got an echo too, huh?
I don't know.
It's all right.
Perhaps I open. Yeah, you play with that. We'll have David play with that. I'm going to go ahead and bring in Matthew Dixon. Matthew Dixon is the CEO or the founder of EVAI. That's EVAI .io, and he is a good friend of mine and a great guy. And here I'm going to go ahead and bring him on board. And how is your audio, Matthew?
Well, hopefully it's all good. I can certainly hear you very well. Can you hear me?
Now, this is pretty interesting. So we have an audio issue here. First time ever that we've had such an audio issue.
I think it must be your audio.
David? Okay, so I just can't hear the audio. Okay. Thank you. I got Fly Mackie online. Matthew Dixon.
Hi.
Ah, okay. The technical difficulty was me.
Excellent.
Sorry, guys. Oh, man.
We sorted it anyway.
So I'm doing great, Matt. It's really nice to see you. How are you?
Really good, thank you. It's been exciting times. And as you say, it's a very exciting time from a financial perspective. Lots of opportunities, but you need to be alert and aware to what's going on.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the, well, first of all, we've made a decent amount of money together. I'll tell you what, guys, I was working with EVAI for a little bit. We have a partnership, a contracting relationship, and I guess full disclosure, but I used their AI platform, and all I did was trade when the things moved. So they have a variety of different, and you can explain it a little bit more, but every time it went from like, B minus to B plus, or when it went from, because it was like A 1, 2, 3 or whatever. And so when it moved to B to A, and I made a killing. Now, of course, it was margin trading. So, it was all kind of funny money until you pull it out. But the point of the matter is that it was really, really effective. So, so I know you're in the UK now. Tell me a little bit about, I guess, how long you're there. And then let's talk a little bit about EVAI.
Yeah, I'm just here for the Christmas. So get home to see the family over Christmas. Work never stops, even over Christmas. Market slows down a little bit, but you still got to be aware of things that are going on in the world. So yeah, just here to relax, enjoy family, and have this interview with you.
I know. Well, thanks so much for coming on. And actually, we won't dive right into it. Let's talk about the market overall. I know you messaged me or you tweeted me or X'd me a little bit back, and you go, Bruce, I'm starting in now. I'm dollar cost averaging on Ethereum, and of course I did too. Matt is usually right, and of course you were. It did dip back and forth a little bit. But what is your sentiment on the overall market now? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's quite amazing. I mean, just looking at Ethereum in particular, I do all sorts of different analysis. I've done, as you know, a master's degree in finance and investment where I studied the factors that impact asset prices and also the factors that don't impact asset prices. But quite interestingly, just looking at Ethereum from the very top, from the all-time high, we measured down using a Fibonacci measuring tool down the first wave, transposed it to the top of the second wave, and we predicted the bottom of the very bottom of the market to within a single dollar on Ethereum. Now that's absolutely astounding. So from that point, we could see the market was beginning to head higher. So we're not here to absolutely predict the future, because clearly nobody knows the future for certain. But a trader doesn't predict the future. A trader uses risk and reward and basically trades that for profitability. So you take into account all of those factors, and that's really what eBay was about. And it's about providing a level playing field, an unbiased approach to it. So back in 2008-9, we all know about the financial crisis, and that was caused by a failure of the ratings agencies at the time, allocating AAA to things which clearly weren't AAA, to put it politely, and that caused misallocation of assets and a world financial crash. So that was really biased. They were effectively, as allegedly, being paid to produce these great ratings for collateralized assets. So what we wanted to do at eBay was create an unbiased system, which basically was using artificial intelligence and machine learning. So no human bias in there. We're not making the decisions. It's purely an automated system that actually has the ability to learn itself. And we've had some amazing leaps forward. What you said about the system was predictive some while back, but now it's more so. So we've actually done a snapshot after we've been going for 3 years now. Although I've been trading for 30 years, as you know, but over those 3 years, we've taken a snapshot after each year and just shown how the ratings have actually improved. Obviously, artificial intelligence, it's like a child. It learns and continues to learn. And we've had some amazing breakthroughs in terms of going back to modern portfolio theory, which is really what all finance is based upon. And we're basically adapting that to align better with crypto. There's some different challenges within crypto. As you know, there's on-chain metrics, there's challenges with liquidity. So with an automated system, an AI machine learning system, we can put these factors in and bring those theories, those academic theories, right up to date, so they're current and effective. So we're looking at, I'm sure you've heard of the efficient frontier, about building portfolios, not just picking assets, looking for those moon picks, but actually building efficient portfolios that will, really help traders do better.
Well, it is really interesting, and it's kind of obviously things are. We just came through a bear winter, and we have done we've been through a few of these things, right? And so it's really, we had a great culling, as one of my partners was saying, and the companies that have survived, really, I think are really going to have a nice run here. And so we're pretty excited about that. I think that platforms, obviously like eBay, that allow people to have some insight in the market, kind of what this show is all about. Give some more insight. What we need is intelligence, right? I mean, I'm here in Washington, and everybody knows that these people are trading, basically insider trading, right? They know what's going on, and they're making a killing. People want to know how these people are becoming millionaires, working for, $250,000 a year. Well, that is a large reason why they are able to do it. And so, having that intelligence is so important. So that's eBay. eBay.io is the website. That's EVAI.io. And so I invite everybody to check that out. Obviously, Matt is a really experienced trader as well. So how do you feel about the market as a whole? Do you think we have this 4.5 year cycle on Bitcoin. Do you think we are going to continue up? We're going to go over 100 grand. We're going to, or whatever. I mean, what are your thoughts on the market over the next 6 months to a year?
Yeah, I went on CNBC. It's actually now 2 to 3 years ago. I can't remember the exact time I went on, but I was asked about Bitcoin at the time. And I was saying that we're going to take a big hit, which clearly we did do with FTX. I said, ultimately, I do believe that Bitcoin will mature as digital gold. We've not seen that as yet, and it's still actually behaving just as a risk asset. So it's very much tied to the fortunes of the world economies, the geopolitics, and the macroeconomics. So it will be swayed by events in the world. It's been swayed by the money supply in the US. It's been swayed by interest rate expectations. We just had the FOMC coming out being pretty dovish, and they've probably pivoted now on interest rates. So that's why I think we had a little boost, a little while ago, a few days ago, on risk assets. And we saw the Dow, racing up to new highs, and we've seen the S&P racing up toward the all-time high, and we've seen Bitcoin and crypto, these risk assets. But ultimately, eventually, as you say, there are a few holes beginning to show. It's beginning to look a little bit ragged on the fiat currency system. As you say, they've been printing money like crazy. At the moment, the US dollar is in a multi-year uptrend. So if you look from the financial crisis back in 2008, 2009, you'll see the US dollar is still pretty much within that uptrend. And it's actually quite a wide uptrend. So there's a lot of potential for movement up and down within that trend. But as I say, at the moment, we're still in an uptrend for the US dollar. So whilst this is, of course, inversely correlated to risk assets. So when you see US dollar strengthen, usually you see risk assets going down.
Right.
And vice versa. What I'm saying is we're somewhere in the middle of that trend channel at the moment for the US dollar. And so that means there's potential to go up or down. Now, that's not particularly helpful for short-term trades. But what I'm saying is long-term, the US dollar is still in an uptrend. And so we need to keep that at the back of our minds when we're thinking about where the markets are going. So short-term, there's a bit of potential either way. But long-term, the risk of US dollar strengthening further, in my mind, thinks maybe there's some geopolitical factors that we haven't fully factored in. And this is one of the mistakes that traders make and investors and so on make, is that they fail to take into account these aren't black swan events. Black swan events are those events which you have no idea what's going to happen. It could be an asteroid, you just don't know what it is going to be. Something completely unforeseen. But these are events which we can potentially foresee to some extent. We know there are geopolitical tensions in the world right now. We know with what's going on in the Middle East. We know with what's still going on with Russia, Ukraine, and potentially with China, Taiwan, and so on. So there are issues there bubbling away in the background that we need to just be aware of, because they can influence what happens in the markets. And the same with the macroeconomic issues. We need to follow that closely, because Bitcoin is not just a magical asset that behaves in some unpredictable way. It actually behaves in line with those macroeconomic factors. So when we saw interest rates potentially going higher, we saw Bitcoin going down. Now we're seeing a bit of, we're seeing pivoting and dovishness from the Fed. And so Bitcoin is looking pretty healthy. So let's just keep an eye on what's going on around the world to inform our trades. And a good trader, doesn't predict the future. A good trader reacts quickly and uses risk reward to make profit out of known situations.
Well, it's great advice, and that's it's pretty interesting, because I know when I was trading quite a bit, you talked about the Elliott wave and this and that, and you're like, oh no, this is going to go down a little bit more, and sometimes you don't know why things are going to happen, and you talked about black swan events and whatnot, but it is interesting that we are still on this uptrend of the US dollar. Now, that could mean it goes up or down from here. Being as we're printing so many trillions of dollars, it seems like it would inflate and the buying power would go down. But then you throw war into the picture as well. And as you talk with these macroeconomic, factors, these macro factors, it's just really hard to predict.
There's some interesting things about that, about the US dollar. Obviously, first of all, the US dollar, it's it's actually what they call an ugly competition, which is the ugliest currency. And yes, US dollar has been printing like crazy, but so has the Eurozone, so has the UK. Everywhere in the world is printing like crazy. So they printed their way out of the financial crisis, but it wasn't a solution. It was a sticking plaster to get us out of the financial crisis back in 2008, 2009. They printed like crazy during COVID to, who knows quite what that was about, but basically the economies were tanking because of what they did regarding COVID, shutting everything down. And so because of that, they printed money to pick things back up. So you're right, money printing has been crazy, but it's been across the world. And so because currency valuations are comparative, then that means just because the US is printing doesn't mean it's going to weaken because the rest is. But that's why long-term, potentially Bitcoin is interesting, because of course it isn't an inflationary currency. But then you have to also think, why is this inflation being allowed? You've still got the US with close to twice the inflation rate. And some say that inflation rate's not even true. It's actually much higher than their...
It's way higher.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the point is, why are they allowing such a high inflation rate when growth is not that robust? And actually, we've got a lot of signs that growth is slowing and that we've potentially got recession around the corner. We've got inversion of yield curves. We've got diminishing money supply. There's all the signs out there that recession is coming, and yet they're still allowing inflation to stay high. And some people are saying that that's because they want to inflate the debt out of the economy. Mm-hmm. So when you have a massive debt, such as the US, such as the world, in fact, the best way to get rid of it is to inflate it away. So once you have inflation, that debt that you currently have today, when you have inflation, is that much less comparatively in the future. So that's why some people are saying that they're allowing inflation to continue at almost twice the target rate. And that is crazy.
It is crazy. I can't believe it. I'll tell you, just at the normal stuff, eggs are double. A lot of just the everyday products that people buy are up 50%, 100%. And of course, the wages are not. And that's, we have this widening of, the people with and the people without. And the people without, their wages are not keeping up with the rate of inflation. And that's pretty interesting too. We have a central bank system here in the US. I know you guys do in the UK too. Actually, most of the world does. And we have it's called the Federal Reserve, and everyone thinks that it's the government, right? But it's the Federal Reserve. It's not the government. It's a private bank, and they've decided that 2% inflation is a target that they can do. And just to let everybody know at home, the reason why they've decided that's the target is because they think that that's as much inflation, as much more money as they can print without having you figure it out and come down here with pitchforks and tell them to stop. So that's pretty interesting because they are letting it really go out of control. It's way higher than 2%. The numbers that they're feeding us on the media and everywhere else are not correct. We all know that. And that's an interesting theory, of course, that gets rid of the debt. Now, if you look at the fiat currency as it compares to commodities, Bitcoin, gold, everything like that, do you see that? I mean, Bitcoin is kind of in its own, I would say, but as far as other commodities, precious metals, do you see that buying power still going up, or is that buying power, are you basing that more on fiat currencies, other fiat currencies, and products?
There's a lot of things in the mix here. So obviously we're talking about currently fiat currencies, but then there's central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are on the horizon now, and potentially that's another way to take control of money. And so it's not another Bitcoin. It's basically, it is centralized again, and obviously Bitcoin was decentralized, and that's the whole reason Bitcoin came into existence, was the financial crisis back in 2008-9. That's why Bitcoin was created. And the very first Genesis block had on it, a title from the Financial Times, a headline from the Financial Times talking about the bailout of the banks.
That's right.
That's why that came, Bitcoin came into existence. And if I don't like predicting the future, but I do see that we are going to have a lot of turmoil in this coming year. And as I say, potentially geopolitically, certainly macroeconomics, there's a lot of potential turmoil out there. And I think this will be the environment in which CBDCs are potentially introduced. But I'm not sure whether they're going to be able to do away with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is that decentralized one that is actually trustable. And, there's been a lot of bad press out there. And I don't know what's going to happen with ETFs. I know the SEC have just delayed once again, but potentially that's another little thing we need to keep our eye on, because at the moment we've had the first wave of Bitcoin and crypto adoption, where we saw Bitcoin go from effectively 0 to 69,000 in record time, really. If you look at an asset, this is a new asset class, and look at the record time it did that in. Now we've had this with winter, we've had the pullback, and back to the FTX bottom. We don't know. It could even go a little bit lower. Who knows? But if that were basically the retail wave higher, a pullback in the in crypto winter, then the next wave, institutional adoption, could really potentially take Bitcoin to those highs, those crazy highs that we've heard about. So if that happens, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's so true. And that's one thing I always tell people. So, I got into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is $70, right? I can't even believe the price right now. It's unbelievable. And if anybody told you back then that they knew it was going to go this high, they were lying, because they never would have sold a single Bitcoin. They would have held them all. And, it's just absolutely crazy. And, back then, though, it was hard to get them. It was hard to get them. It was hard to mine. Still is. It's very technical. It's hard to mine. It was hard to buy them. Where do you buy them? Now it's hard to get them because they're so darn expensive, and it's just crazy. And guys, there's a difference between we're Global Boost Media, Global Boost BSTY. We started 10 years ago. It's just like Bitcoin. It's just like Litecoin. It's decentralized. We have no control over it. I walked away from this coin a couple of times. I came back. People were still mining it, and they were still trading it. It is alive. And every day it produces 3,500 coins. That's going to half in April. And, it's been following the schedule. It's decentralized. The nodes are everywhere. And it's just like Bitcoin. There is no central authority to freeze it, to seize it, to do any of this stuff. And that's why it is kind of in its own area. And you want to be careful, guys, because people, you can make a lot of money. Let's talk about ICP. I do want to talk about that for a minute too. But Ethereum, and as we talked about before, and some of the other ones, and these they can be seized. They're basically like a central bank. They can be seized and frozen and everything else. So be careful. It's good sometimes to trade these. Maybe it's not good, or maybe you want to do both. Maybe you want to trade some, and then you want to hold some. So we are coming up here on the end of the half hour. I want to give a shout out to Smart Money here, Smart Money Culture TV, which is our sponsor or our producer of the show. And I want to thank you, Matthew, for coming on. Please give a website plug, and I think we should have you on again, but I'm sure we will.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a pleasure to be on. I've known you, Bruce, for many years. Great guy. And thank you for giving me the opportunity. I think eBay is a game changer. We're publishing a scientific paper, which will be peer reviewed, based on our efficient frontier in terms of a fundamental look at the market. So please do follow us on evai.io. That's evai.io, and obviously follow me on Twitter at MDTrade. So at MDTrade. So some people have got some great insights. I post probably 5 times a day on different assets, on the wider economy. I'm not just talking about moon coins. And just finally, what Bruce said, there's some great opportunities, not just about trading these big digital assets, but also about identifying those hidden gems. And maybe Bruce's token is one of those hidden gems, but there are opportunities. Those are the tokens which you buy and you hold for the future. They're not ones that you trade actively necessarily. Maybe you do, but there are some which you just put a small amount of cash away and hold them. Like if you're done with Bitcoin from the start when it costs nothing, right now you'd be a multi-millionaire. So these are the potential long-term opportunities. And for me, the short-term opportunities are active trading with the big tokens. So they're the 2 types of opportunities. So again, thank you, Bruce. Thank you to your audience. Pleasure to be here.
All right. Well, thank you. Real quick, I do want to talk, because you told me the last time. So and then I'll let you go. I joined your 100th show. Your what's the name of the show?
Yeah, Market Watch.
Market Watch.
Yes.
It's all one word. It was a pleasure to be part of that. And we talked about ICP, and I did grab a bag. So talk to me a little bit. I'm pretty happy right now. I mean,
so ICP. A couple of days ago, it doubled in one day. So it's absolutely amazing from a technical perspective. We actually saw 3 waves higher. The first wave, you measured it as 100% Fibonacci. The next wave was exactly 1.618. That's the golden ratio. And then the next wave after it was exactly 2.618. And then we saw the price turn on a button at 2.618. So you tell me these markets aren't predictable in some way. That ICP, we identified it, as I say, that was the one we talked about and I told you about, and I said, keep your eye on it. And yeah, if you got into it at those levels, you'd be actually probably at least minimum 10x on your investment.
I'll tell you what, it's looking pretty good. They really know how to put together the community as well. You know, they're working with all types of different people, and the tech is being used for all types of things. We're actually looking at the tech as well in order to store some of the information for our NFTs. So pretty interesting what they have growing. So yeah, I just wanted to get your take on that. But
yeah, it's academically based. It's actually very, very scientific what they're doing. So it's not just some crazy token, pump and dump token. It's actually got a really solid foundation. And again, that's what we're trying to do with eVay. We're building a solid foundation, publishing the scientific papers based on our methodology. And I think that's a really sound footing for any investment if it's properly based.
Awesome. All right, Matthew. Well, thanks so much for coming on. We will talk soon.
Been amazing. Thanks, Bruce. All the best.
Thank you. Cheers. All right, David. Hey. Now you're muted. David, now you're muted.
Oh, come on, man.
All right, so this is David Porter. Of course, we have Joshua Hawley is going to be joining us here as well. But we didn't get our introduction here. David Porter, my brother. We have been running around the world and doing this deal. Happy to have you here. You're joining us from Portugal. How's it going over there?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Everything's good here in Portugal, moving along. Been traveling a bit and meeting guys like Joshua, and everything's all good.
Awesome. So I know it is you're kind of there on the coast. I was talking to Emilio there. Now Emilio is the founder of Blockchain House Portugal, which is where David is, and I think you're having some nice weather there. We're freezing over here. What's the weather like there?
It's a little chilly, but it doesn't get anywhere near freezing temperatures. So it's sunny but chilly. It's chilly now, and people go back to their northern homes to enjoy the winter because you can't go to the beach here. But still nice.
All right. Well, cool. Well, we'll circle back here at the end. I've talked to my good friend Joshua Hawley. He's the CEO of IGA Capital, and I think you're on your mute button there and following along, so don't forget that. Josh, how are you, man?
Good. How are you, sir? Long time.
I know it's been a while. I thought, who do we have on the first show? And of course, I thought about you. I hope everything is going well with IGA Capital. Tell me a little bit about what you have going on.
Well, we just launched in November. We're a Dubai-based mainland broker, advisor, basically fundraiser. We focus on debt, equity, middle market, upper middle market, lower large cap, project finance, trade finance, etc.
Very cool. So I know you have quite a history in the finance world. Obviously, we've had a few deep conversations ourselves. You see what's going on over here. I don't know if you were able to listen in. Matthew had some really good insight as well with what's going on in the world. I mean, we're printing up money, and part of this show is, of course, we want to really help people understand what's going on so that they can help themselves. And in these times, it's confusing. It's hard to know what to believe, what's going to happen. You have people, even I might be guilty of it. Everything's going to collapse. It's going down. And then, you have people who maybe have more insight like Matthew Dixon that says, hey, look, we're on an uptrend here. The dollar might still go stronger, which is crazy to me. What are your thoughts about what we have going on in the fiat monetary system?
I've thrown up my hands, man. It's at this point, I mean, I used to make an effort to speculate and act like I knew, what's actually going on. I mean, the printing press is what it is, right? And global economic policy is bizarre. It doesn't make sense, but it still works. So as long as it works, we'll keep working with it. That's about all I can say. I mean, there's like, I used to be really like, the doom and gloom, but
Right.
I mean, for whatever reason, it still continues to work.
Yep. It is really interesting. I mean, I was talking about it a little earlier in the hour. So we're minting $800 and something billion for this NDA package, the military spending package, and that's about as much as they took in on the federal taxes last year. And so it's just crazy to me.
It's hard to imagine that we're not in serious trouble, right? It's really hard to imagine that the United States is not in dire economic straits, right? But I think that the system has become so political today. I don't feel like, and everything is so intertwined, right? The global economy is so complex and tied to itself in such a way that if it were to unwind, I mean, it's basically, the unwinding of the global economic system. You're not just talking about the collapse of the United States or the US dollar. You would be talking about the collapse of the global financial system as a whole. And that's actually a scary thought.
Yeah.
Like it's a huge, it has massive ramifications. Because, for example, I mean, most Middle Eastern countries are pegged to the US dollar.
Right.
And these are massive economies. These are huge economies. They're huge economies, right? They're massive, competitive global economies. And so much of trade, global trade, is tied to the dollar. I mean, there's a lot of ramblings, right, around alternative systems. But when you talk about the level of integration that the dollar has globally, there's nothing that comes close. There's nothing that comes close. Right? So it's hard to imagine a decoupling from dollar-based economics.
I hear you, right? It's like the whole too big to fail, I guess, type of thing. It's going to be, I think it will be pretty interesting. I think, in fact, once it fails, it's like when the market crashes. It's too late.
Once it fails.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I'll sell right as it crashes, I'll sell. And it's like, boom. And you're like, oh man, I missed it. So I think it may be like that. BRICS is something that a lot of us, you're American. Most Americans never get out of the United States, and so it's harder to have a larger macro view of things. But I think BRICS is pretty interesting. We actually, so in Bitcoin, in their Genesis block, Satoshi talked about bailing out the banks. In our Genesis block of Global Blues, we talked about BRICS, and that was the first thing when they had just funded the first 100 billion, I think, for the bank in BRICS. So I think that's pretty interesting. I think you're in that area a bit more. How do you see that coming together?
Well, I mean, it's global geopolitics, right? And global geopolitics tied to economics. And again, I mean, it's like every major regional currency is dollar pegged. And so even if we're using it, like, for example, there was a huge trade settlement recently done between India and UAE. And it was settled in rupees, right? But rupees, it's like the rupee against the dollar and against any other currency is one of the least stable currencies. It's one of the least stable currencies. So when you're talking about BRICS, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Now it's Saudi. Now it's UAE. A few others are joining. But when you're talking about the global economy and a counter to, let's say, the Western hegemony, which is dollar-based economics, there is not enough, in my opinion at least, there's not enough counterbalance, even from these collective economies, to give enough weight to their value proposition against the dollar, right? If you're to take the entire global economy against the United States, right? The total global economy against the United States still outweighs the rest of the world.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So that like total economic output of the United States against the rest of the world is still significantly greater than the collective of BRICS or any single state actor, including China.
Well, that
So
is.
I think there's a lot of people that make their money off of predicting what's going to happen. I think that it's wise to have a sense of preparedness and a sense of contingency. But I don't feel like the system that we're working within is going to just suddenly fall apart overnight. Right? I just don't see it happening like that. I don't envision just like the Twin Towers falling on themselves. I don't see the global economy falling in that same way.
Well, let's hope not, because it would be very dire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be huge. I mean, it would be massive. It would be massively devastating, because there is really no counterbalance to the current global economic system. There's no full counterbalance. Right? So it means a lot of gap filling.
Yeah.
So I for one hope that it doesn't happen, right? And I would like to see a restabilization of U.S. economic policy, amongst other things. I would like to see a restabilization of U.S. global geopolitical strategy. I would like to see a restabilization of U.S. outward and inward economic policy. Right. And I think that the U.S. could potentially come back from where it is. I mean, it's gotten way off track from where it was originally, but I think that it is definitively a possibility. And it's I mean, by far, it's the best system that's ever existed. I mean, there's just no question about that. Right. There's no system that has ever been as effective as the U.S. economic system, with all of its flaws. Right. There's problems. Right. But there's never been a system that has generated as much wealth and created as much wealth for individuals, right, than the U.S. system, the U.S. economic system. It's
phenomenal, really, and it's really nice to get your view. I know you haven't been here in a while, so again, you have this view. You were, I believe, in Mauritius for a while, now in Dubai. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you're going with some family here for the holidays coming up. Really cool. So guys, we are live also on impact.tv. We're live on a number of places at the moment, but impact.live, we are live there, as well as Smart Money Culture TV. If you'd like to get involved or anything, you can follow the links that are there. So Joshua, tell me a little bit more. I know we started off with IGA Capital. What kind of businesses that you're focusing on and how you're seeing things develop?
Well, this part of the world is booming, right? It's I mean, there's a lot of cash, obviously, with the energy here, and there's less restriction here with oil and gas, right? So the cash is flowing, as they say, and it's translated into. There's also a very friendly business environment, and it's relatively politically stable. I think more so than Europe, and probably more so than the United States is currently. So it's a very favorable economic environment, and it's attracting a lot of capital. It's attracting a lot of projects. GCC, UAE is where I'm based in Dubai. So basically, what we look at is project finance regionally. One of the first clients that we signed is a Riyadh-based project, Saudi-based. It's called Eiffel District Riyadh. So it's in the new city of Riyadh, which is north of the existing city of Riyadh. So it's a large cap project, institutional project, and it means involvement of the likes of XM Bank, for example, USDFC, other DFI type funding sources. And equity partners as well. So it's a very large project, and that's kind of what we're looking at. I mean, in terms of opportunity, right? There's a huge pipeline of these large cap projects. I mean, everybody's heard of the Line, right? Which is like $100 billion project. Anything less than 10 billion is like small for Saudi, right?
Right.
so it means pretty good opportunities for boutique firms like IGA.
Really cool. And now, of course, Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, they got the World Fair in 2030. They're going to try to beat their neighbors there, their good friends there in the UAE, which really killed it as far as I was concerned. Hit it out of the park with the World Fair Expo 2020. So we're going to have Expo Riyadh or Riyadh 2030, right? Is what they're calling it.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Just I think it's 10 or 15 minutes outside the airport, and they're building that now. It's massive. The scale of development in Saudi it's unprecedented. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing to see the level of development that is going in, and they are incredibly bullish, not just economically, but in terms of cultural change. So there is a significant mind shift in terms of opening up and welcoming different cultures to the region. I think once Saudi integrates fully, it'll be like Dubai, times 100, if not more. So it's really cool. I mean, it's a great place to be right now. I'm really happy to be here.
It is. It's exploding. There's just so much money there. The energy that comes out, and we actually, guys, we have a lot of energy in the U.S. We don't use a lot of it for whatever reasons. You can talk about why. Maybe we want to hold it, whatever. But the amount of money that we send over to the area for energy into the Middle East is actually absolutely staggering, and we've been doing it for 30 years. And so, yeah, when you see these big projects, Dubai, spent a lot of time there, and it's like a big real estate project, right? I mean, it's just massive. I can't wait to get back. Now that we're coming out of the bear winter, you'll start to see me more again. Last year it was bearish. It was bearish, man. Well,
Bitcoin's back, so Bruce will be back.
Exactly. Bitcoin's back, so Bruce will be back. The Porter brothers will be back on the scene. It's funny because every time it's like it's all great, and then of course when it goes away, it's like I said, when the market crashes, you always think you're going to get out before it crashes or right as it crashes, and then it crashes fast, and that's usually the way it goes. So I know you're probably diversified pretty well. For our viewers, what do you think, if you don't mind, a good diversification of assets might be?
I'm bullish on energy. I'm still a big believer in carbon-based energy. I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon, and especially for emerging markets. I think it's a huge opportunity in this part of the world, but it's also a massive opportunity in Africa. right? You don't have the, to a certain extent, there's sort of the ESG, but we saw, here we had COP28, which was hosted here in Dubai 2 weeks ago. Actually, just ended last week. And the general consensus with COP28 is that there is not going to be a mass migration away from carbon-based energy. Right. So there is an intention to offset carbon output, but there is still a massive drive and push to use carbon-based energy, right, for industry and for the existing system that we know and work within. So I don't think that that's going to slow down, and I think it's oil and gas and coal in particular are two industries that there's a lot of innovation that makes those two energy sources massively more efficient, right? There's technologies that we can implement with oil and gas that we can implement with coal that get us down to very manageable carbon output parameters. And so I think that, rather than, just making this massive shift to solar or wind or hydrogen overnight, I think that, it would be a measured approach to look at innovative technologies that can be applied within the existing system. So from a tech perspective, I'm looking at opportunities within oil and gas to create greater efficiencies in terms of pumping oil and gas. And then in terms of the energy side, right, coal production, coal-fired power, for example. I mean, there's some systems of coal-fired power that have been developed in the past 10 years that, basically have zero output. So there's good technology out there. It's just a question of, do we have sane leadership or intelligent leadership that can actually, not parrot the narrative and are willing to take a realistic look at what really works and what is actually beneficial and what is not, right? It's we need, and that's one of the things about this part of the world. You have a highly educated leadership in this part of the world, right? They're very intelligent, highly educated, very sophisticated. Right? If you talk to any of the congressmen in the United States, there's not a single CPA to be found.
Right.
Right. So they love just spending money, because they don't have the concept.
Yep.
They don't have the concept, right? So they're not educated. You've got a bunch of, for lack of a better term, and with all due respect, where it's due, you got a bunch of idiots in Congress and in the Senate that are, basically chasing their tails, and by chasing their tails, they're, leading the rest of us into a ditch.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be in a part of the world where, we have sophisticated leadership, we have intelligent, highly educated leadership that are willing to take a look at alternative systems of both governance as well as alternative systems or improved systems of energy and the like.
Well, it is. You said it exactly right. It's sophisticated. It's one of the things I always liked about doing business there. You go down to Miami and, you talk to some guy, and I'm interviewing some guy, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, this guy is like, I don't even know what he's on. He is like, really, the guy's out there. You go over to Dubai, and everybody is they're working hard, and it doesn't mean that you can't have a drink or something like that. But people are very focused. Josh, I want to thank you very much for coming on our inaugural show. I want to have you on again. It's been a real pleasure to catch up with you here live and do this. Congratulations on your business there. Really, really happy for you.
Appreciate it.
How do people?
Congrats on the launch of the show here, man. This is really cool.
Thanks, man. We're pretty happy about it. I got my guy. He's been texting. It's early for them, so they were up early watching it. And I think the plan is to really push this out quite a bit. So appreciate that. What's your website? How do people get a hold of you? And
IGA.capital is the website, and Joshua at IGA.capital is my email. If you have an interest in working together and have some projects that you would like us to take a look at, I'm more than happy to.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Take care.
Take care. Big Dave. Dave, you're on mute again. Okay, there he is.
There we are. Staying tuned in there. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, man, cool. Well, Josh is a legend. Matthew Dixon's a legend. You're a legend. Figured we would start off the show right. I think that we're gonna have a lot of different things that we're gonna do here. I picked this. This is the 6 to 7 a.m. hour here on the East Coast. I take my daughters to school here in a few minutes, but I figured, you know what? Let's just start it early, get it out there, and then we can go from there. And I think I'm pretty happy as we to wind down here. We just have a few minutes. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the early bird gets the worm. So over there on the East Coast, you'll get everybody's blood flowing. We'll keep showing you guys some of the new decks and keep the deal flow rolling in. And we're looking to diversify, our investments, and we're gonna go for it.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about it. This is obviously highly respected guys that we had on the show today, but we're going to continue that. The doors that will open for this, I think, for all of us are something else. And consistency is one of the most important things, right? Consistency. And that's why I said, okay, we're going to do every morning, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 5 a.m. live in Texas and Louisiana. And then, of course, it sounds like they will rebroadcast it. But super excited about it. We'll always be live on impact.live as well. And I didn't give a shout out to Crypto Cake. I know a lot of our viewers right now are on Crypto Cake YouTube. Really thank you and shout out to Steve and the team there and the partnership that we have that simultaneously live there on Crypto Cake with their 1.74 million subscribers. So that was really happy about that, and we're appreciative. It takes, guys, it takes years, it takes partners, it takes friends, it takes a lot of it takes a lot of different things to come together in order to do something that is this special. And Matthew, I totally agree with you. Then that'll do something and put something together that's this special. We said, okay, we're gonna do our first show. I called the first two people that I wanted on the show, and they both said, yes, sure, Bruce, we're going to do it. And that's really what it's all about. And so it's a pleasure to share it with you guys on our first show here. Hopefully we'll be with you in the morning and throughout the world, but in the morning there in Texas as you're getting ready, and that you listen and make sure you check us out. And if you want to get involved, obviously we have multiple different ways that we'll share with you over, and obviously we'll get better at it too. But we're super excited about it. So we are going to be signing off here from Washington, DC. Myself, Bruce Porter Jr. is out.
David Porter, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Matthew.
Signing off from Portugal. We can bring Matt on real quick since he's still here. He can sign off. Matt, you're on mute. Okay. Guys, we love you. Cheers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost. Become a champion of free speech. and how to reshape the future of media.